11:56 a.m. The clerk call the roll.
Chairman Canellis?
Here.
Rainey? Ashby?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Gomez?
Here.
Harrison Williamson?
Present.
Landgraf?
Here.
Lujan?
Here.
Ordaz?
Present.
Patterson? Perez?
Here.
Romero?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Good afternoon, members. Everybody join us. Please excuse my tardiness. I was in a meeting with the Speaker's office that went over. It is never my intention to start anything but promptly. But if you've ever been on a plane when the pilot says we're going to make up time, we're going to make up time. So to all of those wishing to testify in person today, please ensure that you're registered in the electronic witness affirmation system that is located in the tablets in the hallways. If you need assistance registering, please, sir, see my clerk. We're going to be limiting testimony to 2 minutes today out of respect to the viewers interested in other bills set aside for today's the members committee. We're going to respectfully ask you that if you plan to testify, please do not repeat the previous testimony that's already been spoken. If you have testimonies prepared that will repeat, please, we welcome you to come and give us that testimony in writing. The folks watching at home, the Transportation Committee can take public comments on individual bills for the discussion today. For all of those interested in submitting public comment, please view the notice of the public hearing that can be found on the Transportation Committee on the Texas House of Representatives website. When you've selected the notice, scroll down to the very bottom of the website information, and the public comment portal will close shortly after adjournment. Members, I'd like to continue the practice of reserving the questions for each of the witnesses until the witness is done testifying. Please silence your phones. Lastly, we will always, in this committee, be calling authors according to the seniority currently present in the room. So unless other accommodations have been made ahead of time. Members, do you have any questions before we proceed? Chair hearing none. Chair lays out House Bill 1277. The chair recognizes Representative Kane to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman Canales, Vice Chair Rainey, committee members. I'm here today to present House Bill 1277, which seeks to amend the Transportation Code related to pedestrian use of the sidewalk. Currently, Section 552.006B of the Transportation Code stipulates that a pedestrian walking along a highway must, if possible, walk on the left side of the roadway or shoulder the highway facing oncoming traffic. While this may seem like a reasonable requirement, it's led to the unnecessary arrest and detainment of pedestrians by law enforcement. We have clear opportunity today to address the overly prescriptive statute and provide Texans with a more sensible approach to pedestrian safety. To clear, by the way, that this bill leaves in place things like subsection A of this provision that prohibits pedestrians from walking along and on a roadway if an adjacent sidewalk is provided and is accessible to a pedestrian. As a reminder to the committee, though, last session, this committee unanimously passed out an identical piece of legislation. The bill was passed by the House by a vote of 92 ayes and 42 nays. Similarly, in 2015, actually, this committee voted the same legislation out unanimously as well. With that, thank you for your time. I reserve the right to close.
Chair recognizes Representative Rainey is present. There is no right to close, but we'll let you come address us on
Correct.
So, Chair now calls Rick Briscoe, or Briscoe Rick, I'm sorry.
Rick Briscoe.
Rick Briscoe. Please come forward, state your full name, who you represent, and your position on the bill, please.
Mr. Chairman, members, my name is Rick Briscoe. I'm testifying on my own behalf. I'll tell the story.
Your position on the bill, sir.
I am very much for the bill, sir.
We'll have you for the bill. Please proceed.
I'll tell the story of a peaceful walk in the country. A man who was subsequently to become a close friend, Mr. C.J. Grisham, was on a 10-mile hike out in farmland to the west of the city of Temple. He was carrying a AR-15, a civilian rifle, because of wild animals out in the countryside. He was conducting a 10-mile walk with his son for a Boy Scout merit badge. Someone called in saying there was a man carrying a rifle on the street. The police showed up, and he was ultimately arrested on the non-existent charge of brutally displaying a firearm. It doesn't take long to peruse the criminal code to find out there's no such offense. During the second trial, they used as a predicate for him interfering with the performance of the duties of a public servant. Mr. Grisham was a recently returned combat veteran, and you will understand that maintaining possession of your firearm is your life, just plain and simply. For literally a second, when the officer grabbed his weapon without notice, he held it and then released it. There's video of it all over the place. The reason he was walking on the wrong side of the road was there was a fork in the road ahead, and there was a limited sight distance due to terrain, and it was much safer to walk on the right side of the road to take the right fork in the road. Ultimately, he was convicted based on that fraction of a second that he instinctively held his firearm and then released it with interference with a public servant. This bill would use common sense to let you decide where you should walk for your own safety. And for those reasons, I am very strongly in support of it. It provides too many opportunities. The existing law provides too many opportunities for abuse by law enforcement. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your testimony and being, excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
1 second. Members, any questions? Thank you for your testimony today. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on or against the bill? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Close on the measure.
Thank you, members. As you can imagine, this isn't a type of law that's used against some people that maybe look like us. There's been a lot of problems. I think it's a smart fix. We've passed it out of the House before. Let's do it again. And with that, if there's any questions, though, I close.
Members, any questions? Thank you, Representative Kane. HB 1277 be left pending at the time. At the time the chair lays out HB 1450, the chair recognizes Representative Raymond. Explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members, and good luck to my friend Briscoe Kane, who's going to the football game. Members, House Bill 1415 is about as straightforward as simple bill as you could find. It seeks to clarify how the state should properly interpret and apply federal law. To plainly state, our state law directs that every Texas vehicle must have appropriate lighting equipment that meets federal safety standards. The reason we filed this bill, or I filed this bill, the reason it's needed is that a new type of widely used pulsing brake light technology has emerged that is used all over Texas and I think 48 other states or 47 other states. And I say new, although it's 10 years old. Technology is 10 years old, and we've used it in Texas, and hundreds of thousands of cars have it already. But in recent years, with the increased use of iPhones and other technologies, distracted driving has become a true epidemic, as I think most would agree. The technology at issue combats distracted drivers by allowing the third brake light on a vehicle, called a high-mounted stoplight, to pulsate a few times from higher to lower intensity when the brake pedal is applied. This catches the driver's attention and buys a few crucial extra seconds to react. The Texas DPS has overseen these sorts of modules on Texas roads for many years, as I said, and has interpreted them as clearly being approved for use on Texas roads under their interpretation. In my view, these modules are indeed compliant because they produce a steady burn, which is important language, steady burn, that varies in intensity for a few seconds but never deactivates. Just like burning a candle. A candle, you turn it on, never turns off, but it gets brighter and lighter, brighter and lighter. And many of you, if you stop and think about it, at this point, you've been behind a car, maybe your vehicle has this already. You see a light, it comes out bright, it gets lighter, lighter, but it never turns off. And so we wanted to make sure that we put it in statute, it does comply, because it never turns off, okay? And we have a lot of car dealerships around the state have been installing these for many years, almost a decade by now. Working with DPS, we wanted to make sure we put this in statute and make it clear. So with that, I will answer any questions. And although I don't have a right to close, I will.
Members, any question for Representative Raymond? Thank you, Representative. We've got one witness, Kevin Cannon. Please come forward. Mr. Cannon, state your full name, who you represent, and your position on the bill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. I'm in here in favor of House Bill 1415, presented by Representative Raymond.
Are you for the bill?
Yeah, I am in favor for the bill. Yes, sir.
Thank you. And you represent yourself.
I represent a company called Brake Plus.
Greg, please, go ahead.
All right, our module with Brake Plus is an aftermarket product that causes the motor vehicle center-mounted high stop lamp to change in intensity without deactivating when the driver presses the brake pedal. This type of module is proven to be an extremely effective tool to help combat and reduce accidents stemming from distracted driving. In the last few decades, the increased use of new communication technologies by drivers, the drivers of distracted driving, I apologize, sorry. The dangers of distracted driving on Texas roads have increased exponentially. Unfortunately, the Texas Transportation Code language requiring the state to apply federal standards pertaining to high-mounted stop lamps was enacted many years before this sort of pulsing brake light technology was created. To clarify its application of federal law on the subject, the Texas Department of Public Safety just recently issued a bulletin to its inspectors explaining these types of center high-mounted stop lamps that pulsely brief without deactivating during the braking cycle have been approved for use in passenger vehicles in Texas. This is consistent with how the law has been applied in Texas over the past year, several years, and in other states. Nevertheless, Texas Transportation Code language needs to be updated to clarify the support the Texas Department of Public Safety's interpretation and erase any doubt or confusion about this technology. House Bill 1415 would simply affirm the ongoing application of federal law and explicitly recognize these types of technologies. The types of modules described in House Bill 1415 steadily burn in compliance with federal law because they pulse briefly and remain lighted, never to deactivate during the braking cycle. Hundreds and thousands of vehicles of this type of modules have been on Texas roads for many years and without a single report of adverse incident. I would therefore urge the committee to vote favorably for House Bill 1415 to ensure that Texas can continue to reap the safety benefits of this type of technology. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, do you have any questions?
Members, any questions, Mr. Cannon? Okay. Anyone else wishing to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Raymond to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to mention that someone handed me a note, one of our firefighters, EMS, that EMS ambulances that have been built in the last 5 years have also installed these lights. Chairman, I know you don't have to mention, but I think someone registered. Is there an opposition? Is that right?
Oh, yeah, I apologize. We generally do, and it's the practice of this committee to mention that. So we have Drew Campbell and was registered against, and is this who they were representing right here?
Yes.
With AFIA.
American Federation.
And we do have, if anybody's got any questions, we do have.
What is the American Federation? What is it?
I just have the acronym.
Of auto manufacturers or something. So I want to address that very quickly.
Absolutely.
They're out of Washington, and Drew was nice enough to tell me about
I
that.
apologize for not raising that. That's generally the practice of the chair.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Chairman. But I wanted to address that because he heard from some lawyers in Washington, and they said, oh, Texas is not complying with federal law. Well, that's just not true, number one, because federal law talks about a continuous burn. This light is a continuous burn. It never turns off. So I know guys up in D.C. feel like they know a lot. Hell, I worked up there for a while myself. Never thought I knew that much, by the way. But in any event, it does comply, and that's what we want to put it in state statute to make sure that it's clear. Hey, we're doing this because it complies, because it's a steadily continuous burning light. It never turns off. What they refer to up in Washington, with this association is referring to, is about lights that turn off. And I would add, Chairman, just so you'll know, this bill doesn't say any car manufacturer has to do this. They don't have to put those lights on there. They don't have to, and many of them don't. What happens right now is when you go buy a car, you have that option if you want to add that, and more people are adding it because they see it, and it's very effective. Again, I'm sure all of you have seen it by now where, that light goes on and light, not as bright, but it gets your attention. So more and more people are using it, and they're using it in 48 states at this point. With that, I'll close.
It's the red and blues that get my attention. But
Yeah.
Members, any question of Representative Raymond? Not HB 1415, we left it pending at this time. Chair now lays out HB 53
Thank you, Chairman.
by Chairman Thompson. Please step forward. Tell us what the bill's about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Statute allows for nonprofit response organizations to be eligible for exemption from vehicle registration fees for their emergency response vehicle fleets.
Representative, we can't hear you. I don't know if you can.
Okay, better.
Is that on?
Is it on?
Yeah, there you go.
Pardon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, got it. There have been some questions about how we define emergency response for the purpose of qualifying for the exemption. HB 53 clarifies the following activities qualify as emergency response in order to receive the exemption: training, equipment maintenance, supply transportation, and other activities related to disaster relief. Members, it's a simple bill clarifying the rules. This bill passed last session, but didn't quite make the finish line. I have witness today that can put some context on the bill. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I reserve my right to close.
We'll recognize that. Chair calls David Wells. Mr. Wells, step forward, give us your name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
David Wells with Texas Baptist Men. I'm in favor of HB 53.
Proceed, please.
Thank you, Chairman Canales, for allowing us to share. When the Transportation Code 502-454 was passed, it was surely intended to help us in disaster relief volunteers throughout the state. But as it's currently written, the code only applies to vehicles exclusively used for emergencies. However, vehicles owned by disaster relief organizations are also used for training, recruiting new volunteers, delivering repair facilities from when maintenance, and used in pre-positioning supplies and equipment for preparation for anticipated disasters. There are many organizations that would immediately apply for this special registration if not restricted, that those vehicles can only be used for emergencies. This special license plate will significantly reduce the operation costs for these non-profit disaster relief organizations, and additionally, the relief plates will allow them to even get the fuel during disasters when it's not ready available. The proposed changes to the Transportation Code will simply explain the authorization usage for the vehicles registered as disaster relief vehicles. I strongly encourage you to pass House Bill 53, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you for being here. The following people were registered to testify, registered for the bill, not testifying: Robert Lopez, Texas Civil Rights Project; Scott Newman, Texas Builders Foundation, and himself; J.D. Hale, Texas Association of Builders; Tiffany Patterson, United Ways, Texas; Stephen Reeves, Fellowship Southwest; John Litzler, Texas Baptist Christians Life Commission; Scott White, Policy Director for Belo Paso; Joshua Houston, Texas Impact; Jennifer Allman, Texas Catholic Conference of Bishops; Robert Andrews, Austin Baptist Association Disaster Relief; Jay Crossley, Farming City; Scott White for himself, from Ordaz's district, from Representative Ordaz's district; and Annette Quintero, Texas DMV Director, was here neutrally as a resource witness. Members, is there any else who wish to testify on, for, or against the bill? If not, Chair recognizes Representative Thompson to close the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I respectfully request your favorable consideration on House Bill 53, and I close.
HB 53 will be left pending at this time. The chair now lays out HB 1196. The chair offers up the committee substitute to HB 1196. The chair recognizes Representative Romero to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the committee, the opportunity to lay out House Bill 1196. Mr. Chairman, I do have a committee substitute if we could lay that out now.
The chair's, it's been laid out.
In the late 1990s, the United States Southern District Court of Texas determined that Tianda Airport Support had misappropriated intellectual property from an American company, FMC Corporation, which is known as JBT. Tianda was prohibited from manufacturing or selling passenger boarding bridges incorporating elements from FMC's designs anywhere in the world. In late 2017, the City of Houston entered into a memorandum of understanding with CIMC Tianda Airport Support to lease or purchase land near George Bush International Airport and open a manufacturing center. CIMC Tianda is a successor company of Tianda Airport Support. After the City of Houston was informed of the background of Tianda, they ultimately pulled back on that deal. They are Texas companies with Texas employees doing their own costly research and development for airport passenger boarding bridges. They are designing and manufacturing airport passenger bridges in our state. These companies employ 1,300 American workers and are doing business the right way. Allowing a foreign government-owned company with a history of intellectual property theft to undercut Texas companies is inexcusable. These companies design and fabricate their products in America, while Tianda would likely manufacture components and kit in China, then ship them to the U.S. for assembly. Furthermore, there are serious concerns about the data privacy as airport boarding bridges are beginning to incorporate technology such as facial recognition in concert with Customs and Border Protection. Contracting with a company such as Tianda would mean placing biometric data and remote-controlled jet bridges in the hands of a Chinese government-owned company. The committee substitute for HB 1196 would address these issues by prohibiting an airport from contracting with a company that falls into both of the following categories. One, a federal court has determined the company misappropriated intellectual property or trade secrets from another entity. And two, is owned wholly or partly by, controlled by, or subsidized by the People's Republic of China. Committee Sub 1739 would put the onus of the bill with the company bidding on projects much like our current prohibitions on state entities contracting with companies boycotting Israel by requiring a written statement by the bidding company stating that they do not fall under the provisions of this bill. The committee's substitute includes a provision to allow local governments or airports to void their contract if the bidding entity falsifies the written statement required by this legislation. This bill is a refile. Last session, it passed out of this committee and the House unanimously. It was voted out of the Senate Transportation unanimously and died on the Senate local and uncontested calendar along with many other good House bills. By passing this bill, we can protect Texas companies, Texas jobs, and Texas privacy. Thank you, Chairman Canales and committee members. I'm happy to answer any questions and reserve the right to close.
Members, any questions? Your bill is so good that no one decided to come contest it. But the bad news is no one decided to come testify for it either. So,
I'm here to testify for it.
are you?
Yep.
You're not registered.
I know, he's out there doing it for himself.
Okay. Let me make this announcement right now. If you plan to testify on any bills before this committee, please be prepared because you're wasting the committee's time by having us wait here while you register. So think about it twice.
Chairman, I'm here.
Can you please come forward? Oh, the chair recognizes Chairman Patterson present. Hey.
That's okay.
Somebody fill out his registration for him? I don't think you can do that.
No, you're not.
We have an issue, sir. You have to personally sign the witness affirmation form. You cannot have somebody do that for you.
Yep.
So we will patiently wait for you if you can please go and get that done. Committee stands at ease. Till 12. Committee stands at ease at 12:19.
Back in 5 minutes or 2 minutes.
We will resume business in 5 minutes. Chair calls John Thompson. Mr. Thompson, please state your full name, who you're with, and your position on the bill, please.
My name's John Thompson. I'm with Jetway Systems, and I'm for the bill.
Please proceed.
And that's all. Romero did a great job laying out the bill, so appreciate it. We're for it. The bill has been modeled after legislation from John Corner passed in the federal level, which prohibits Tienda from bidding on federally backed airport improvement projects. So that's it.
Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair recognizes Representative Romero to close.
I close.
This time, the chair withdraws committee substitute to HB 1196. Thank you, Representative Romero. 1196 we left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 433, and the chair recognizes Representative Van Dever to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. HB 433 originated with a constituent who is having great difficulties maintaining registration, renewal, and inspections of his fleet trucks. He has a relatively small fleet, and they renewed at different times across the state. Currently, to qualify as a fleet, a company must have at least 25 vehicles. This bill simply changes the number required to be a fleet from 25 to 15. I'm happy to answer any.
25 to what?
To 15.
To 15.
Yes.
Members, any questions of Representative Van Dever? We'll reserve your right to close.
Thank you.
Chair calls Craig Keenum. Please step forward, tell us your full name, who you're with, and your position on the bill, please.
My name is Craig Keenum. Thank y'all for hearing me. My position is for the bill.
And who do you represent?
Myself.
Go ahead.
We currently run 18 trucks scattered across the most part of north part of Texas. And I've got trucks scattered from Arkansas all the way to Stratford. I have to make 3 to 4 trips a year just to inspect trucks to be able to meet the inspection laws. And I would like this to pass to where I could just inspect all the trucks in the 75-day range.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you for being here. Chair calls Brett Graham. Step forward, tell us your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
My name is Brett Graham. I represent myself, and I am in support the bill.
Please proceed.
Thank you. My family owns and operates 2 commercial businesses, a truck dealership and a commercial tire operation, and we are located in 6 different cities with multiple locations. Both of the businesses fall just under the 25 threshold. So as y'all are very aware of the process of registering a vehicle, with so many trucks in different cities, we have to down trucks, we have to get the registration stickers back, chase down the vehicles, get them in. So clearly this change to 12 would be very beneficial for us, and not having to chase these vehicles around all year. It would condense them down. We would get the plates, and all we'd have to do is inspect the vehicle each year, and it would go for multiple years. The fleet program with the DMV will allow you to register up to 8 years. So it would be wonderful. My wife has to do that, and she would absolutely love it if we could get this down. And it would get me in a better position with her. So anyway, thank you. That's all I have. Any questions?
And you are Mr. Brett Graham, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Members, any questions? Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Van Dever to close on the measure. Mr. Van Dever, just for the sake of making sure that the record is correct, and maybe perhaps I'm incorrect, but I think
You are correct. It's 12.
Thank you. I just want to make sure nobody calls a point of order or misrepresentation on the bill.
Thank you for catching that. I pulled the wrong.
I didn't. My vice chair did.
Great. And I close.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Representative Van Dever. HB 433 will be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 1379 by Representative Ortega and recognizes Representative Ortega to explain the bill.
Chairman Canales and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to lay out House Bill 1379. El Paso, the downtown Interstate 10 project is currently underway. It consists of reconstruction of a 5.6-mile segment of Interstate 10, including the trench section and associated bridges that has created a physical barrier between downtown El Paso and the rest of the community since the 1960s. As the Downtown 10 project has progressed, a community-supported proposal for an El Paso Deck Plaza project has emerged. This project would transform an area currently marked by a high-speed interstate into a true multimodal transportation facility that is inviting to all. The Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority has offered its services to perform the engineering and construction needed to develop the Deck Plaza. The CRRMA is authorized by Chapter 370 of the Transportation Code to develop a wide range of transportation projects and is equipped with a variety of tools with which to procure the development of those projects. However, a project like a Deck Plaza is not currently included as an eligible project. HB 1379 would revise the definition of a transportation project under the RMA Act to include an urban green space or aesthetic improvement so that the CCRMA would be able to complete this project for our community. I have a local expert on the issue who's going to be providing testimony, but I'm happy to answer questions at this time. If there's no questions, I reserve the right to close.
Members, any questions? Representative Ortega. Thank you. We will call you back up.
Thank you.
Chair calls Terry Hall. Ms. Hall, please step forward, state your full name, who you're with, and your position on the bill, please.
Sure, absolutely. Terry Hall with Texas Turf and Texas for Toll-Free Highways. We are opposed to the bill. Here's the issue. With RMAs doing green spaces, this wouldn't apply just to this project. It would apply to all RMAs, is my understanding. And that means that toll payers potentially could be paying for this kind of a recreational park or green space facility. We feel like that's mission creep for RMAs and probably not or will be abused by other RMAs to have a toll payer paying one tax for what's supposed to be a road end up being used for something else. We also know that a lot of these road projects are using eminent domain. So when you're using eminent domain for something and eventually it becomes a green space, we don't think anyone should have their property taken from them for someone else to play on. So those are our concerns with the bill.
Your concerns is it'll be used on other projects, but if it's just used specifically for this project, you don't have a problem?
It depends on how the revenue flows. I don't know. She was saying that it was supported by the community. I wasn't sure if that meant it was a bond package, so maybe the funding is separate from the toll payers having to pay that, or if this is all being funded through the toll payers.
Perhaps
That's really the
share
issue
some of those
for us.
ideas with Ms. Ortega.
Is following the dollar. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Members, excuse me, ma'am. Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Rick Briscoe. Mr. Briscoe, step forward. Tell us who you're with. Full name, possession on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I am Rick Briscoe, testifying on my own behalf in opposition to the bill.
Please proceed.
Simply put, this is beyond the scope of the reason RMAs were created. Creating green spaces and whatever a multimodal use facility is not, strictly speaking, a transportation issue. Certainly the major, if not only, source of revenues of RMAs is from toll roads. And you've got a positive self-reinforcing phenomena of them tolling various and sundry things to generate revenue for their staff. I can say in San Antonio, they've outspent their allocation and had to be bailed out. We just think it's poor public policy. Thank you, sir.
Vice Chair Rainey.
Mr. Briscoe, it's my understanding the RMAs are paid for by a fee. I don't know of any case, but I may be corrected, that toll fees are used to pay for an RMA.
It's my understanding, at least in the San Antonio area, that the RMA derives funding from various toll projects. And
I think we need to check that out.
The net result is it encourages them to approve toll projects, because otherwise they don't have any money. Thank you for the question, sir.
So just
Yes, sir.
so briefly, when you build a road, most oftentimes there's a median or there's sides of the road, correct, that
Well,
aren't paved?
Technically, it's a right-of-way. It's reserved for future expansion.
Right away. So, and is that to be never maintained? Do we mow it? Do we clean it?
I'm not sure of the funding for the mowing, but yes, sir, there is typically mowing, although several organizations are trying to encourage TxDOT to plant wildflowers and such that require less maintenance and beautify the roads.
So if you're just, and I would ask you to do this for me so that you can educate me in all of my ignorance, is let me know where you have are telling me that RMAs don't have any authority to do any of that, because that's what you stated to the committee, and perhaps you're right. Maybe it's going to be a longer conversation.
Well,
I won't belabor the committee with my question, but I'd ask you to come see me offline to demonstrate to me where the statutory authority or lack thereof shows that an RMA has no authority to do anything with green spaces whatsoever, because that was the representation you started with.
Well, the name itself suggests their mission, Regional Mobility Authority. And in my view...
I'm not arguing with you, sir. I'm asking you for the favor to come educate me offline.
I will be most pleased to do so.
Well, I would appreciate your time. Thank you. Members, any other questions? Thank you. Chair calls Raymond Tejas. Please step forward, tell us your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Chairman, committee members, my name is Raymond Tejas. I'm the Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority in El Paso, and I'm in favor of the bill.
Thank you. And Regional Mobility Authorities, for everybody's sake, is the RMA that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
As you all know, regional mobility authorities here in the state of Texas are very diverse. Chapter 370 allows for RMAs to do all sorts of mobility projects. By way of example, some RMAs focus primarily on toll facilities, some do aviation, some do rail. The RMA in El Paso, Camino Real RMA, we do a little bit of everything. And so what we've done, well, I should say except for toll roads. So we have no toll roads, but we do rail car, we've done streetcar, we've done heavy highway, we've done bike share, and most recently we've partnered with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department to complete an aerial tramway. So we're involved in major regionally significant projects that El Paso has determined to be priorities, and that's what we're doing here today. So when you look at 370, it is written very broadly to allow for all those types of projects. But when you look at the Deck Plaza project, we can do the majority of the work within that project. There's a streetcar crossing, there are hike and bike trails, there are all sorts of mobility improvements as part of the project, but there are also green spaces that 370 does not look like it would allow us to do. So that means we could do part of it, and then in a rather inefficient way, other entities would have to come in and do the green space. So what we're trying to do here under this bill is combine it and become more efficient and complete another regionally significant project for the area.
Were you present in the room when the other witness just spoke?
Yes, sir.
Okay, he started off with saying that the reason for RMAs was for toll roads. Is that not accurate?
That is not accurate.
Okay. In fact, you don't have any toll roads, do you?
We have none. No, sir.
Okay. Ms. Hall would love that. So any members, any questions? Thank you.
Sir.
I'll just turn mine off.
Is anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Ortega to close.
Thank you. I close and I ask that you please report House Bill 1379 favorably out of committee.
HB 1379 be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 78 and recognizes Representative Ortega to explain the bill.
Thank you. The El Paso region faces unique transportation challenges because of its proximity to Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, and Las Cruces, New Mexico. Many of these residents have family, school, jobs in El Paso and vice versa. The large population of these cities and the movement of their residents places a strain on our aging roads. Additionally, El Paso is impacted by the presence of Fort Bliss. which has a significant population of active military and family members living on and off base. In an effort to address growing transportation needs, El Paso County would like the option to impose an additional fee in order to fund priority projects in our region. House Bill 78 is a local bill which allows El Paso County commissioners, subject to voter approval, which I think is very important, it is subject to voter approval, to impose up to an additional $10 fee in order to fund long-term transportation projects which are included in a plan that is approved by our local MPO, the Metropolitan Transportation or Planning Organization. As an international port city, El Paso's ability to meet the transportation needs is important to the economic future of the entire state of Texas. Again, I thank the committee for allowing me to present this important local bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And this is a repeat bill that this committee passed last session.
Members, any questions? We've got a couple witnesses. Chair calls Eduardo Calvo.
I reserve the right to close.
Please state your full name, who you're with, and what your position on the bill, please.
Good morning. My name is Eduardo Calvo. I'm the Executive Director of the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization, speaking in favor of the bill. Let me start by thanking Representative Ortega for sponsoring the bill, and also Representative Claudia Ordaz for joint authoring this very important bill. We need funding and financing mechanisms to raise local funds for transportation projects, period. Vehicle registration fee, VRF, is one mechanism that allows us to do that. House Bill 78 enables El Paso County to charge the optional fee of up to $10 if voters approve it. If voters do not approve it, well, they don't. But at least now we have that option, that opportunity to raise these local funds. With past authorizations of vehicle registration fees, the county has fully funded needed transportation projects and also provided the local match for federal and state funds. I think this is a great success story, and it's very well documented. In addition, for large transportation projects, our friends from TxDOT and the Texas Transportation Commission are now asking local communities to partner with them to find the funds for implementation of these bigger, larger projects. VRF is a proven mechanism that could allow us to provide that local participation. Local skin in the game has become more important than ever. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Members, any questions? I just want to make a comment. So I live in a South Texas border town too, and everybody across the state needs funding. And I can appreciate the measure, and in fact, I think I'm not opposed to it. I would just always, you know where you live, and I know where I live, and there's a lot of people that are poor. And so what I would see is if you could consider perhaps having something that gives those people relief, even if the voters approve it. I'm always looking to make sure that somebody needs to register their car or something. $10 to me is not a big deal, but $10 to a lot of people sometimes is a big deal. And I think it's important that we consider those that are more financially vulnerable, especially when we're trying to improve transportation. That would just be my 2 cents. Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair now calls Jorge Reyes. And thank you for traveling so far to come do this.
Happy to do it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Full name, who you're with, and your position on the bill.
Jorge Reyes. I'm a planner for El Paso County, and I'm for the bill. Thank you once again for allowing us to...
one second. You told me what you do. Who do you represent?
Sorry, representing El Paso County.
Thank you.
And I'm for the bill. Thank you for allowing us to speak today. I also want to thank Representative Ortega for filing this bill and for her leadership pushing through this critical legislation, as well as Representative Ordaz for being a joint author. As a gateway to Texas for northern Mexico and the state of Mexico, New Mexico, El Paso County is a binational region home to an estimated 2.5 million residents. According to the recently completed 2021 Texas Border Transportation Master Plan, our regional economy contributed $91 billion to the United States gross domestic product in 2019 and is expected to grow over $356 billion by 2050. At the heart of the efficient and secure movement of commerce is a reliable and robust transportation infrastructure system. The original optional vehicle registration fee, or VRF program, has proven to be an innovative and flexible funding stream that empowered our community to make strategic investments throughout the entire county, supporting increased commerce, rapidly new residential development, and other air quality initiatives. For example, the completion of Aguilera International Highway, a bypass connecting a local port of entry to Interstate 10, was funded utilizing the VRF. The project, which was completed on time and under budget via a partnership between the county, El Paso TxDOT District, and the Camino Real RMA. The VRF-funded projects are also typically designed and subsequently open to the public sooner than projects funded with traditional transportation funds. For example, in the exhibit that was just handed to y'all, in your the design timeline for two similar projects undertaken by the county. The design for Project A was funded using a local VRF dollars, which was completed in just under a year, nearly 40% faster than Project B, which was funded through federal transportation dollars. The flexibility of VRF funds lead to enhanced and efficient project delivery, which can also be demonstrated by the county's use of public-private partnerships with a variety of land developers in the community to construct critical community roadways at a significant savings to the county. HB 78 empowers our residents to continue to invest in the economic vitality and growth of our region by ensuring that both commerce and residents can move about efficiently. Further, the use of these local funds creates new funding capacity in the region, which allows other entities such as TxDOT the opportunity to construct projects in the region with funds that may have otherwise been obligated. I appreciate your consideration for this important legislation, and I'm available to answer any questions the committee may have.
Members, any questions? Thank you for being here, and thank you for traveling so far. Chair calls Rick Briscoe. Mr. Briscoe, step forward. Tell us your full name, who you're with, and your position on the bill, please. Chair calls Rick Briscoe.
Mr. Chairman, members, I am Rick Briscoe, testifying on my own behalf in opposition to the bill. I will be very brief and simply say I personally do not favor the expansion of regulations such as this involves. I think smaller government's more efficient. Harkening back to the RMAs, they're yet another layer of regulation that sometimes is counterproductive. Thank you, sir.
Members, any questions? Mr. Briscoe, thank you for being here. So, generally, the rule of the committee chair is to call those. Yeah, Representative Ortega, recognize you to close. Give me the ones.
Thank you. I also want to thank the two witnesses. It came all the way from El Paso to testify, even though it wasn't testimony that is very detailed at this stage of the game. But it just shows how important this bill is to my community, that they travel all the way over here. So I would please ask that you support it and vote it out favorably. Thank you. Oh, any questions?
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you, Representative Ortega. HB 78 left pending at this time. It is generally the rule of the chair that we do seniority present, but there are several members that have someplace that is extremely important to be. And so at this time, the chair lays out HB 1521. The chair offers up the committee substitute to HB 1521. The chair recognizes Representative Ordaz to explain the bill.
I thought you were in front of me. Well, I'll take it. Chairman, members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this piece of legislation. I have a committee substitute I will explain in my layout. House Bill 1521 will protect dogs and drivers from unnecessary vehicle-related injuries and fatalities by requiring pickup truck drivers traveling with dogs to have them safely secured when traveling at high speeds on busy freeways. The committee substitute for this bill will only apply to highways and interstates and counties with a population greater than 500,000 and vehicles exceeding 60 miles per hour. This issue is a safety concern for drivers on major interstates. According to AAA, unrestrained dogs cause distractions for drivers and potentially tens of thousands of car accidents per year. These animals become a distraction to other drivers on congested multi-lane highways and overpasses where there is less time to react. This impairs their judgment and causes unnecessary collisions or accidents. It is also estimated that over 100,000 dogs a year are injured from the open bed of pickup trucks every year. One study found that 71% of veterinarians treated dogs who were injured while riding in the back of a pickup truck. Currently, 6 out of 10 of the large cities in Texas have already passed similar ordinances that aim to fix the problem, but cities can only control so much. HB 1521 would give law enforcement the tools they need to monitor our major interstates. In addition, this law would discourage the practice while also providing guidance on how to safely transport animals when having them ride inside the vehicles is not an option. Both the Texas Police Association and the American Veterinary Medical Association recommend that you must transport your animal in open air pickup truck or trailer. You should use the appropriately sized crate that is tied securely to the walls of a truck bed. We have engaged many stakeholders in the development of this bill, including the Texas Municipal Police Association, CLEAT, Texas Cattle Raisers, Texas Farm Bureau, and the Texas Veterinary Medical Association, all of which who have no opposition to this bill. With me today, I have Chief Crane from DPS Highway Patrol Division as a resource witness to help answer any questions you all may have. Thank you, Chair Canales. Members, I'm open to answer any questions and reserve the right to close.
Members, any questions? Chair calls Terry Hall. Ms. Hall, please step forward. Tell us your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Sure. Terry Hall with Texans for Toll-Free Highways and Texas Turf. And we oppose the bill. I do like your substitute much better, I have to say, because it's just highways and then 60 miles per hour. Those are good changes to the bill. But I guess we just in the camp of we feel it's too prescriptive. There's lots of ways to restrain dogs besides just in a crate. Pickup trucks are very handy. They're useful. That's why most people buy them, is because there's stuff in the back of their truck at different times. So to have something that has to be more tied down and secured inside the back of that bed of the truck, there's other ways to do it. Sometimes there's animals with a harness that you can do it. There's lots of ways to do it. I feel like we don't want to be one size fits all, that there needs to be a certain level of personal responsibility among pet owners and drivers, and that we should just allow discretion on these things rather than a prescriptive law from the state level.
What if I put an amendment that says if you've got a dog in a crate, you don't have to pay the toll?
Maybe we could talk.
Members, any questions? Thank you. Chair calls Rick Briscoe. Come on down, Mr. Briscoe. Please state your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I am Rick Briscoe. I am testifying in opposition to the bill. I'm testifying on my own behalf. Until very recently, we had a dog we loved very much. He passed, and I'm a dog lover. But this is another level of government regulation that I think goes too far, to put it quite simply. I personally would strongly discourage people from putting their dog in the back of a pickup and driving on Interstate 10 with it. At the same time, I just can't see that it's necessary that the government should be involved in that. As to the matter of cages, I personally have observed people who've had a leash or a harness on the dog and it's fastened to an iPad in the middle of the bed of the pickup. And yeah, even there, the dog can wind up sliding all the way to the front if there's an emergency stop. The same thing can happen inside. Much as I love dogs, I just can't support this as a government policy that criminalizes such conduct. I respect your motives in it, but I simply disagree.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Ordaz to close.
Thank you, members. I request your favorable consideration, and I close.
At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to HB 1521, and HB 1521 will be left pending at the time. I did notice the silent exchange between you and Representative Rogers, and you do actually beat him in seniority by 6 points, Sarah.
Look at that.
And you would be next
Sorry.
if J. Dean wouldn't have slid in here and took your spot. Chair lays out HB 1198, recognizes Representative Dean of these folks. You are the dean of them. to explain the measure.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Members, today I'm laying out two bills regarding trailer safety. First,
Right now, you're laying one bill out.
I said I'll be laying two, maybe, if the chairman so sees.
Oh, I'm gonna let you lay them out, but one at a time.
I hear you. Okay, I am laying out a bill, 1198. 2 years ago, March 2021, Kelly Hall, a constituent of mine, was killed in a traffic car accident in Smith County when her vehicle was struck head-on by a detached trailer. Small pull-behind trailer not been properly attached and did not have the required safety chains. Unthinkably, a few years before, this same family lost Kelly's brother in a similar crash. Trent, Kelly's brother, was struck on the side of the road by a trailer. The trailer driver had lost control of the trailer because he improperly or did not connect the trailer brakes. Dr. Cliff Hall, Kelly's husband, couldn't be here today, but he asked that I share a letter, which I have, the committee, sharing his support for these bills. We provided copies to the clerk. After meeting with this family, I believe these tragedies were preventable, and I want to help prevent any other family from going through this. The first bill, HB 1198, directs the TxDOT to develop a public safety campaign to spread awareness of their trailer accidents in trailer safety. Ladies and gentlemen, in the business that I'm in, we have probably 150 plus trucks with trailers, et cetera. It's very easy to see how this might happen, but it takes a lot of training, and we want to put this out in front of TxDOT. Happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions? There is no one registered to testify on, for, or against the bills, but is there anyone who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Dean to close.
Chairman, I close.
HB 1198 be left pending at this time. At this time, don't run off too far. We're laying out the second one. Chair lays out HB 1199. The chair recognizes Representative Dean to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, as said earlier, the bill also regards trailer safety and was developed following the same two accidents. It directs TxDOT to make necessary changes to the statewide crash report, which is CR3, so we can collect and track how many accidents like this occur a year. Excuse me. Here to answer questions.
Any questions, members? There is no one registered to testify on, for, or against the measure, but is there anyone who does wish to testify on, for, or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Dean to close on the measure.
Chairman, I close.
HB 1199. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was trying to avoid you creating a point of order on your bill.
I love your efficiency, Chairman.
Thank you. Chair now patiently. Give me a second. HB 1199 left pending at this time. The chair now lays out HB 1156 and recognizes the very patient Representative Rogers to explain the measure.
Thank you, Chairman Canales and members. I was on this committee last year and really enjoyed Chairman Canales' leadership. Thank you for the opportunity to lay out House Bill 1156. Rural areas often are underserved and underfunded. In rural Texas, first responders are limited, response times are longer, and heavily rely upon volunteer emergency services. Volunteer fire departments are crucial in rural Texas. These dedicated men and women volunteer their time to serve their community and the strangers who are just passing through, yet they are often put in a position to be a lifeline for those in immediate peril. Several rural communities in my district, including Strawn, Gordon, and Santo, communities maybe you haven't heard of, but they're located near I-20 as it traverses across north central Texas from west of Fort Worth to east of Abilene, and with increasing frequency, volunteers arrive at as the first of the first responders to major wrecks and perilous situations on the interstate. Each of these rural fire departments in my district have expressed that they lack the safety equipment to adequately notify or flag down drivers on the road to slow down, stop, or move over. These departments do not have the funds to make large purchases for safety equipment. House Bill 1156 would greatly help rural areas and emergency services by allowing DPS and TxDOT to donate or sell at a discounted price surplus traffic and roadwork safety equipment, including lights and safety flags, to a Texas political subdivision such as volunteer fire departments. An identical version of this bill, HB 4026, passed through the committee uncontested last year, and I want to get it passed in the 88. Thank you for your time. I respectfully reserve the right to close. Thank you.
Members, any questions? You got a couple folks here testifying. Chair calls. Ronnie Bush, please step forward. Tell us your full name, who you're with, and your position on the bill.
Good morning. My name is Ronnie Bush. I'm a captain with the Ranger Volunteer Fire Department, and I'm in favor of this bill.
And who do you represent?
Ranger Fire Department.
Thank you.
There are a lot of rural fire departments that don't hardly have the funds for their own PPE, much less traffic safety
equipment. There was a fad a few years ago to have yellow cones, and you might see that in smaller towns. Well, those are no longer federally compatible, and a set of cones is thousands of dollars. 20 is a little over $1,000. When troopers or EMS need traffic control, they don't call TxDOT, they call us. And we would like to have the equipment that TxDOT has. My end goal is to have for my department message boards, and they're about $15,000 a piece. That's not putting it on the equipment that we need. We have about a handful of miles of I-20 that goes through my district, and we see a lot of high-speed accidents. We need to get information to drivers right then. The state is finally beat into drivers' heads, move over, slow down laws. They'll pass one truck and immediately get right back over. So the fire service has changed as far as how we respond to wrecks. Now, instead of having EMS and fire, now we have to have traffic control. We have to have traffic control on all of our vehicles. So I'm in favor of this bill. I'd appreciate it if you could move it through.
Members, any questions? Thank you. Chairman Ashby.
Not a question. I just want to thank you for your service and all of our volunteer firemen. Appreciate you being here today. Thanks for making the drive.
Thank you for being here. Chair calls Jessica Ballou. Are you here to testify or as a resource witness? Resource witness. Okay. Members, does anybody have any questions of Ms. Ballou? We will switch you from
To testify, to not testify.
from to not testifying, basically showing you're a resource witness. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against a measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Rogers to close on the measure.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Ronnie Bush. He's salt of the earth, volunteer fire department, drove all the way down here from Ranger with his daughter Haley, who's here at University of Texas, getting some experience in the legislature.
Welcome.
This will be an important and inexpensive tool for rural emergency services to utilize in their efforts to improve road safety. Mr. Chairman and members, thank you for your time. I would appreciate your favorable consideration of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. HB 1156 be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 1846 and recognizes Representative Ashby and to explain the measure. You can do so from right there, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to lay out House Bill 1846 before you this afternoon. Members, this is a very simple bill. If you notice it, essentially we're just changing one word in statute. The bill would require the Department of Public Safety to administer a skills test to a person with a commercial learner's permit issued by another state. And this is just a very simple way for the state of Texas to do more to encourage CDL drivers. Essentially, we have a lot of drivers that register out of state, get their skills test passed in a different state, and then they come to Texas. But right now, the department is not required to provide them the skills test or one of the vendors that administers the skills test. And there's about 245 vendors across the state that do this. So essentially all this is doing is saying that the state will, through DPS, will be required to administer the skills test to those applicants for a CDL license. We don't change any requirements on as far as the passage and the requirements to become certified. So that's all the bill does, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Members, any questions? We'll reserve your imaginary right to close. Chair calls Lisa Daughtry. Please come forward. Tell us your full name, who you're with, and your position on the bill.
Good afternoon, Chairman Canales, committee members. I'm Lisa Daughtry with the Texas Department of Public Safety, and I'm here as a resource. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Members, any questions? Thank you for being here. Thank you for your
You're
time.
welcome.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Chair now calls Martin Garcia. If I got that wrong, please correct me. Please step forward. Tell us your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
You're correct, Garcia. Martin Garcia. I represent the National Association of Publicly Funded Truck Driving Schools. Give you a little bit, and we're for the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give you a little bit more context. Most of the schools, community colleges in Texas, Houston Community College, Lone Star, Del Mar College, Amarillo, and the list goes on, have truck driving schools, which our association represents. We are for the bill for several reasons. One is schools that are close to our state border, such as El Paso, Texarkana, Orange, they have a limited market. In Texarkana, people must drive into Little Rock to get truck driver training rather than being able to do it in Texas. Community colleges provide training to many Texas-based or larger employees that have facilities in Texas. Some of them do their own training. Some of them contract with our public schools or private schools. And because we cannot test them, it hinders us be able to do business with them. So it limits what we can do. The benefit to school would increase student enrollment by being able to test out of state, in turn increase the driver pool, which is very important due to the existing driver shortage. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, which oversees CDL, does not prohibit out-of-state third-party testing, so there's not a complication there. In fact, many states do currently test out-of-state people with the commercial learner's permit for their skills testing. We request the bill to be passed so that we can better serve our local businesses. People that come in for training, many times, for example, there in Houston, several companies bring people in for training for everything but CDL from out of state, so it limits what we can do and service our local businesses, and it would add revenue for those that come in from out of state for lodging and restaurants and that type of stuff. We're not asking for the state of Texas to spend any additional money for the state skills testing. We're asking for the third-party examiners to be able to do that. Third-party examiners are employees of a school or a company, and they're not paid by the state, so there's no additional cost to DPS.
Members, any questions? Representative Ashby.
No, I'm sorry.
No questions, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Ashby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I close.
HB 1846 be left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 1888. Chair up and recognizes Representative Lopez to explain the measure. This time, the chair offers up the committee substitute to HB 1888. Representative Lopez, please explain the measure.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members, it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. House Bill 1888 amends the Transportation Code by designating an extension of the current overweight corridor boundaries to include the 13-mile stretch along the US 281 Military Highway to Hidalgo County line from 509 to FM 1015. The Port of Harlingen needs this change due to growing violence and unsafe areas near and around the Los Indios Bridge. Because of the unsafe environment, many truckers are now taking a detour and traveling along a 13-mile stretch of Military Highway 281 from FM 509 to 1015 to the Far International Bridge. Since this area of 281 has not been designated as part of the overweight corridor, this has resulted in thousands of dollars in fines for our truck drivers and operations. HB 1888 will allow drivers permitted access to the Far International Bridge from the Port of Harlingen without the risk of fines or safety.
Members, any questions? Thank you. You've got a couple witnesses. We'll call you back up.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chair calls Walker Smith. Mr. Smith, please step forward. Tell us your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Thank you, committee members, for the opportunity to be able to speak to you today. Walker Smith, Executive Director of Port of Harlingen, representing Port of Harlingen, and I am for the bill.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Representative Lopez has laid it out, and if you have any questions, I have submitted some written testimony that you're welcome to review and look at, and I will respect y'all's time. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I'm very well aware of the problem. It's
Yes,
a
sir.
good bill. Thank you. Members, any questions?
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Chair calls Stephen Putenat. Come on down, tell us your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill, please.
Good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity. Steve Putnett, Titan Fuel, I operate in the Port of Harlingen. I'm here to answer any questions as it pertains to the industry if you need to.
You represent Titan Fuel?
Titan Fuel, yes, sir.
Okay. And you are for the bill?
The COO, yes, sir. I'm for the bill, yes, sir.
Members, any questions, Mr. Putnett? Thank you. No. So is there anyone else who wishes to testify on or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Representative Lopez to close on the measure.
Thank you, Chairman and members.
First bill?
Yes, sir.
Somebody got the transportation code? I've got some questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, members. I ask you to refer this bill to the full House with a recommendation that it pass and that it be sent to the regular calendar. Thank you for your consideration.
And printed. At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to HB 1888. Thank you, Representative Lopez, on your first bill. HB 1888 will be left pending at this time. Now the person has slid in and beat me for many times when I've been waiting for hours. The chair recognizes or lays out HB 1460, and the chair recognizes Representative Guillen to explain the measure. The chair offers up the committee substitute to HB 1460 and recognizes Representative Guillen to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, some constituents of mine who sell and deliver dirt and other aggregate products and other products like pecans brought this concern to me a few years ago, and as a result, we have drafted this committee sub. They have their own trucks and scales, which they use to weigh each load before heading out on the road, but although their trucks leave their place well under the maximum weight limit, their drivers often end up with a citation for exceeding weight limits upon being stopped by commercial vehicle enforcement officers. What happens is that the dirt or other products that they're transporting are not evenly distributed in the truck or trailer because they're not products typically shipped in crates. So when the commercial vehicle enforcement officers stop and weigh each axle, one will exceed the limit and the others will not. Section 101 of Chapter 621 of the Transportation Code contains single and tandem weight limits along with an overall gross weight limit, but it doesn't take into consideration the effect of shifting loads when weighing axles at roadside inspections. HB 1460 simply exempts commercial motor vehicles that transport these shifting loads from the single and tandem axle weight limits, but not from the overall gross weight limit. And it exempts them 15%. It gives them a 15% threshold, but not from the overall weight limit, to ensure that the intent of the statute is still met and not used maliciously. My constituent who brought this to me couldn't make it, but I asked, I think we might have somebody here to testify, but I'm not sure.
You do have a couple. We'll call you back up.
All right.
Chair calls Rick Thompson. Mr. Thompson, step forward. Tell us your full name, who you represent, and your position on the bill, please.
Rick Thompson, Legislative Director for Judge and Commissioner Association of Texas. I've been working with the office and appreciate the chairman working on some language, so we will withdraw our opposition.
So I'm going to show you, well, you told me what you do. Who do you represent?
Rick Thompson, County Judge and Commissioner Association of Texas.
So you represent the Commissioners Association of Texas, County Judges and Commissioners Association of Texas, and we are now to show you as neutral or against the bill?
Neutral on the bill now.
Neutral on the bill.
Substitute.
You have anything to say?
No, sir.
All right. Appreciate you being here.
Appreciate you.
We do have a resource witness, and I'd actually like to hear from the resource witness. So the chair calls Chris Nordlow, Texas Department of Public Safety. Chris, come on down. Tell us who you're with. Tell us your full name, who you represent, your position on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Major Chris Nordlow from the Texas Department of Public Safety. I run the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Program, and I'm here as a resource witness.
Can you tell us what's going on here?
This bill allows for aggregate hauling vehicles to get a 15% on an axle tolerance, 15% on average weight laws, 34,000 pounds plus 15%, it's 39,100 pounds.
So my understanding is it's not on the actual complete totality of the weight of the trailer. It's because sometimes they're unevenly distributed because of the nature of the product, and therefore what they're trying to get is a little bit of breathing room because stuff shifts, moves, but it's not necessarily the actual full weight of the trailer. Is that your understanding?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Does that create any safety issues?
It creates, so your 1547 permit allows for a 10% on axle for the permit, which is 37,400 pounds. If you're hauling agricultural materials in their natural state, it's 38,080 pounds. So this adds basically 1,000 pounds on top of that. So I would say it's nominal as far as a safety issue.
So I've dealt with similar stuff in my district and personally when I've asked somebody to bring me dirt or caliche or something like that. And so they measure it kind of by the scoop, and then they get pulled over by one of your experts and they're a couple pounds over and they get cited because of the strictness of the weight limits. So this kind of helps in that sense because this is not about the weight limit. This is about where it's sitting.
We have a 1,000-pound weight tolerance. We have an automatic warning for up to 1,000 pounds over by policy.
Got it. Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you for being here. Does anyone else wish to testify on or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Guillen to close on the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I close and I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
At this time, the chair withdraws the committee substitute to HB 1460. Thank you, Chair Guillen. HB 1460 is left pending at this time. At this time, the chair lays out HB 1461 by Guillen and Representative Chairman Guillen to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, a few years ago, a small city of roughly 600 people in my district was awarded a sidewalk grant from TxDOT for $250,000. This was a big deal for the people of Encinal and turned out to be a very useful project for them. Upon awarding them the grant, however, TxDOT included a stipulation that the agency would manage the project, something the city really appreciated considering their small staff and small local budget. But sometime after the project was completed, the city received an unexpected bill for over $100,000 from TxDOT. The bill was for expenses that went over and beyond the budgeted amount of the project. What's more frustrating is that roughly 30% of that bill was for TxDOT staff time. HB 1461 corrects this by simply not allowing the agency to bill for overages on grant projects that they award to small communities like Encinal, and where TxDOT requires that their own agency manage the project themselves. Obviously, in this case, had they managed it themselves at Encinal, they would have made sure they wouldn't have gone over $100,000. I don't think we have anybody here to testify, but I can answer any questions.
There is no one here. Is there any questions of Chairman Guillen? There is no one here to register to testify on for or against, but is there anybody who would like to testify on for or against the measure except for me, which I would like to testify for the measure, but I won't. So nevertheless, thank you, Chairman Guillen. We will leave HB 1461 left pending at this time. It looked like I needed to go anyway.
The chair lays out HB 1885. The chair recognizes Chairman Canales to explain the bill.
Thank you, members, for allowing me to lay out HB 1885. The preliminary data as of March 16, 2023 indicates that 4,488 Texans have died in fatal car crashes in Texas roads. Failure to control speeds remain one of the top 3 contributing factors for fatal crashes. Variable speed limits would allow Texas Transportation Commission and the TxDOT to respond in real time to road traffic conditions to improve traffic safety and highway capacity on given roadways by temporarily reducing the roadway speed limits. Potential scenarios in which these variable speed limits may be used by TxDOT include roadway construction, maintenance to ensure safety workers and traveling public, as well as inclement weather conditions like heavy fog, ice, and rain. What 1185 seeks to do is give TxDOT some statutory authority it needs to use variable speed limits to create a tool in the safety toolbox. I reserve the right to close that I don't have.
Members, are there any questions of Chairman Canales? Seeing none, thank you. The chair will reserve the right to close. The chair will now call Terry Hall.
Okay, Chairman, you're going to be mad at me. Okay, this is Terry Hall with Texans for Toll-Free Highways and Texas Turf, and we oppose the bill It's been a long-standing bill for us that we've opposed for a long time for various reasons, so I'm just going to lay those out. I do like some improvements you made, however, to the bill, in that it cannot go under 10 miles an hour under the current posted speed limit. And there's other bills that have been filed that scare me even worse. So yours isn't as scary, that's good. But the reason why they scare me is because they would exempt them from any kind of traffic or engineering study. Yours does say that TxDOT has to examine that. It doesn't say study, but it does say that they have to have the engineer and, how's it worded? I don't have it in front of me. But it basically says that you do have to have some kind of traffic and engineering examination of it before they just do it randomly. I was on 1604 one time in San Antonio. The posted speed limit 70 miles per hour. Literally one of those variable sign reader board type things was on the side of the road, and all of a sudden the speed limit said 30 miles an hour. It was not a construction zone. There was nothing going on. We have no idea why it happened, but I can tell you we almost had like a 50-car pileup because you can't go from 70 to 30 that quick. So I do appreciate that that's only 10 miles an hour under on yours, that it limits it. But here's some concerns we've had. I've had this happen in so many of these zones. I mean, all these interstates. On I-10, this happened before, where in construction zones, they will have the posted speed limit, but you don't know if it's when workers are present. It can be at, midnight, and there's no one around. And so you have some people that are braking because they see the construction speed limit that's a specific lower speed limit, and you have other people barreling by at the regular speed limit. I think there needs to be clarification on that in construction zones, but that may be a separate issue than what we're doing here today. But we don't define temporary here. I've seen construction zones in particular where they lower the speed limit. It can be for 3 years by the time they finally get that speed limit back up to where it should be. So I think maybe defining what temporary means would help as well. And with inclement weather, we already have to slow down for inclement weather. And we already slow down in congestion because, boy, we would love to go faster if we could, but the cars prohibit us from doing that because everybody's going slow at that point. So I don't know that we necessarily need to give TxDOT this kind of authority. I don't know why they keep asking for it. Because changing speed limits actually confuses people, and many drivers will stay at the artificially lower speed limit for way beyond when they need to because they're confused. They didn't necessarily see the sign that lets them increase the speed again. So I just feel like it causes confusion. Okay, when there's speed differentials, that's when you tend to have accidents.
The chair calls Rick Briscoe. Thank you for being here today. We show you registered as against the bill on behalf of yourself, and who are you testing for? 5-4.
Mr. Chairman and members, I'm Rick Briscoe, testifying on my own behalf in opposition to the bill. Although I support the remarks of Mrs. Hall, it's been my observation that vehicle speeds are largely self-regulating. Where the weather does not permit, most of the time people actually slow down to an appropriate speed. Yes, there are some people who drive quite recklessly, but that's in violation of existing law. And as you probably are aware, sir, out between Fort Stockton and El Paso and various areas, people drive probably more than the posted 75-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it's most often not a problem. Once again, it tends to be self-regulating. As far as construction areas go specifically, sometimes I wonder, there is a section of Northwest Military Highway where I live in San Antonio where they've reduced the speed limit from 45 to 40, as if 5 miles an hour is really going to make much difference. It befuddles me. There was a fatal mishap involving a police officer on Interstate 10 at Dezoala Road, also near where I live. The current law requires you to slow down, I believe the figure is 25 miles an hour, or move over. Well, the problem was there was so much traffic, one vehicle had no option to move over, and when he hit the brakes to slow down by 25 miles an hour, another vehicle plowed into him, and consequently they both plowed into the police officer, resulting in a very tragic ending. Some of these things that are well-intended have unintended consequences. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on, for, or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Canales to close on the measure.
Close.
Thank you, Chairman Canales. HB 1885 will be left pending at this time. The chair lays out HB 2190. The chair recognizes Chairman Canales to explain the bill.
2190 seeks to update the terminology in state law used to describe transportation-related crashes. The bill is going to replace the use of the word accident with the word crash. The frequency of severity of crashes is often due to intentional decisions made by people directly involved in the crash and by public decisions made regarding our transportation system. In 2021, traffic crashes took 4,546 lives and left 19,903 people with serious injuries. It is past time that our transportation code reflect the truth about crashes. Words have meaning. They are largely preventable. Reserve my right to close.
Members, are there any questions of Chairman Canales? Thank you. The chair will reserve the right to close. We now will call Kathy Sokolic. Thank you for being here today. We saw you registered as on behalf of, who are you representing? Central Texas Families for Safe Streets, and you'll be testifying on HB 2190. Is that correct?
Correct. You just stole a little bit of my thunder. Kathy Sokolic, Chair of Central Texas Families for Safe Streets. I'm in favor of this bill. I am the chair of a club that really stinks. We are family members who are affected by traffic crashes. I'm in favor of this bill because I don't want other families to suffer from the results of a crash on Texas streets the way my family has suffered. On September 12, 2016, someone driving a pickup truck down a residential street in my neighborhood hit my 9-year-old nephew, Ben, who was acting like a kid and crossing the street to go home. That driver was driving fast enough to severely injure him, leaving him incapacitated, needing 24-hour care in the remaining 5 years of his life until he died in 2021. Many of the members of our really horrible club have lost their children because someone decided to check their Facebook feed or someone decided to get drunk and drive a car. And some, because we, the public and the government, have failed to design and invest in streets and roads where we could go on about our daily lives without the threat of a sudden, horrific, permanent change to our families. Ben was not hit in an accident. Accident implies that no one is to blame and that nothing could have been done to prevent this. A crash or collision robs 12 families a day in Texas of a loved one, not an accident. According to Dr. Tara Goddard, professor at Texas A&M College Station, when we read news stories about crashes instead of accidents, we are more likely to feel empathy for those affected, to believe that we as a people can do something to fix this terrible situation, and to support reasonable policies to end traffic deaths. Calling it an accident hurts my family and the over 4,000 families, as Chair Canales told us, we unfortunately become members of this club. This is why I ask for support of HB 2190 to end the mistaken use of the word accident in the Texas Transportation Code. We ask that you recognize these crashes and collisions can be prevented. Thank you for all you do to end the traffic deaths in the state of Texas.
Is there anyone have any questions?
Sorry for your loss.
Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on for or against the measure? If not, the chair recognizes Chairman Canales to close on the measure.
Thank you, members. This may seem like a small change, but it is a big change clarifying exactly what is transpiring. Words do have meaning. Thank you. I close.
Thank you, Chairman Canales. HB 2190 will be left pending at this time.
Members, that concludes today's agenda. Thank you for participation. Is there any further business for the committee to address? If nothing further, Chair moves to adjourn. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the committee stands adjourned, subject to the call of the chair. The time is 1:24.